So let's begin with the pre-talk. The pre-talk is the part of the session, the very first hypnosis encounter, in which we spend an hour with the patient telling them about hypnosis, finding out what they want from us, and telling them the concepts of hypnosis in a very scientific way. So we're presenting hypnosis to them, not as some stage hypnosis situation in which they'll be barking like a dog or clucking like a chicken. A lot of times they have those preconceived notions in their mind, but rather we're presenting it to them as a scientific healing tool that is going to help them. So here's an example of how I would conduct a pre-talk with someone. Can you talk a little bit about that, about why you feel that you need more motivation?
Well, I just feel like on a day-to-day basis, when I wake up in the morning, I don't really have kind of a set plan on what I'm going to do that day, and even though I might have some goals in mind that I want to accomplish in general, I don't really have a day-to-day way to do that, and I feel like I end up sleeping late, or I just get caught up in doing other things, and I think maybe the reason why I don't have so much motivation is because I don't have a step-by-step process that I want to do, and I'm not sure how to go about accomplishing these goals, and so it's a little I don't want to say disheartening, but you know, I'm not so motivated because I'm not exactly sure what I need to be doing that day in order to get closer to those goals.
Great. What are the benefits that you'll gain once we accomplish that?
Well, hopefully I'll be closer to or have already accomplished some of the goals I have for myself, and along the way, hopefully I'll have a better attitude toward accomplishing those goals, and I'll feel better about it, and I'll feel that it's more possible for me to get there in the end.
Okay, great. What are some of the limitations that you feel you've been dealing with in your life that have held you back from having the motivation you want?
Sometimes I feel like some of the things I want to do require like some money. I don't have enough money to do the things I need to do to get where I want, or you know, I've been in relationships that I felt have stopped me because I get so caught up in the other person and I forget about my own goals and my own motivations. And probably some things that were taught to me by my parents about, like, you know, you go to school and you go to college and you graduate and you get this job whether you like it or not, and you get married and you have 2 kids and that's it. And so, you know, just other things that I've probably been programmed to believe by my parents or society in general that might not go along with my personal goals that I want for myself.
The motivation situation going on. I'm avoiding using the word issue because I think the word issue is overused quite a bit, so I don't want to imply that there's something wrong with her. So as much as possible, I'm avoiding negative words which have negative connotations like issues and problems and so forth. So I'm hearing a situation going on, and I'm hearing some challenges. Those are the words I like to use, situations and challenges whenever possible. So one of the situations that I'm hearing is that there are relationship challenges. That's one thing that needs to be addressed. There's a motivation challenge. That's situation 2 that needs to be addressed. The third thing that I'm seeing is a blockage when it comes to accepting abundance. So I'm seeing those 3 things going on. And what I like to do at that point, once they have told me what's going on, is create a plan. And if I have 3 things that are going on that are separate yet interrelated, I like to create a plan that's going to encompass all of them. And I like to separate them. And I like to start with a fundamental one first. So I'm going to talk with her a little further now and figure out which of these 3 areas is the root cause, if there is a root cause, so that I can chart a path for her. So what I've heard so far is we've got relationship challenges, we've got money challenges, and we've got motivation challenges. So let's talk with her further and see if we can uncover what's really at the core of this.
Probably, I think that if I dealt with the motivation issue first, it would help, because even if I had plenty of money and I wasn't in an inhibiting relationship, if I don't know where to go with that, then I still am not going to get anywhere. You know, I could have all the money in the world, but if I don't have a plan, then that's not going to help me. So I probably need mostly to focus on getting more motivated day to day, and kind of maybe setting smaller goals for myself that I maybe can do in one day. Like, if I can just get this done today, then I accomplished something, instead of concentrating on the whole thing, you know, because it's discouraging, you know, when it's not instant gratification. So maybe setting up a way to have maybe some smaller goals that would lead to my bigger goal that I can do in a shorter period of time.
Okay, great. And what we want to do is ramp her up for success. So Sara is on board with me. We're working together to create a plan. What I'm going to do then is start with motivation. And by the way, patients don't always know the best approach, and I don't always ask them directly what they think would be the best approach. I did in this case for illustrative purposes, but sometimes I'll just hear things that they're saying, and I, in my mind, will start prioritizing and figuring out what I think is the root cause, and then build from there. Because a lot of times, if you start out with the root cause, the other situations clear themselves up. So I'd like to work 3 sessions with you on motivation, and then if we need to, we'll work 3 sessions on either abundance or relationships, depending which one's first. A maximum of 9 sessions, a minimum of 3. Does that sound good?
Great, yeah.
Okay. So now I've got her on board. She understands what we're going to do. She also understands the scope of the work we're going to do together. That's very important. If you have a patient coming to you for hypnotherapy, there's a good chance that they don't want to spend years in a therapist's office, that they've, for some reason, either tried traditional therapy or they've bypassed it because they didn't want to use it. I have no problem with traditional therapy, but traditional therapy can take years. It can take 10 years to accomplish the same thing that we can accomplish in a maximum of 9 weeks. So what we're doing is very streamlined and very focused. Over time, it's going to save her a tremendous amount of time, a tremendous amount of money, and let her start living her life with power as soon as possible. So that, in my opinion, is the beauty of hypnotherapy. It's just a very fast way to cause a change. When it works very quickly. So getting back to our patient here, I want Sara to understand what's going on, and I want her to understand the commitment that she's making, not only to herself but also to me, because now I'm acting as sort of a coach, and I'm saying that we're going to work together for a maximum of 9 sessions, minimum of 3. She's agreed to that. So now we have sort of an agreement. And so we have a little bit of dynamic tension there. We have the tension of her wanting to change, but also the tension that she's going to feel of the commitment. That's important. It's very important that there's a little bit of that positive tension there. And that tension is the tension that a person who's being coached feels as a responsibility to the coach and to the process. If someone's in training for the Olympics, for example, they feel a little bit of positive dynamic tension between themselves and the coach, and themselves and the process. It's important that we have that. That way she feels committed, because what happens, unfortunately, many times when we proceed through a hypnotherapy process is that the patient will at some point say, wait a minute, I don't know if I'm committed to this. I don't know if I want to follow through. That's when that dynamic tension, that positive tension really kicks in. It becomes something that she's committed to, and that's very important. So now I have some information from her. We have our plan, we know what we're going to start with, and at this point, with the remaining time, I would share with her some information about hypnosis. I would dispel some myths about hypnosis. I would talk about the fact that she won't cluck like a chicken or bark like a dog. I would answer any questions that she has. I would explain the different phases of hypnosis, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. I would explain to her what she can expect during each session. I would explain to her that she may be aware of everything that happens during the session, which you may be, and that's okay because you'll still be in hypnosis. And that is the most important part of the pre-talk, to explain to the patient that they may be aware of everything that happens during the hypnosis session, but that's okay because they'll still be in hypnosis. Because what happens if a patient goes through a hypnosis session and they're aware of everything, And afterwards they tell you, wait a minute, I was aware of everything that happened during the session. And then you explain, oh, I should have told you that you may be aware of everything and that's okay, you're still in hypnosis. Well, it sounds like you're making an excuse at that point. So you always explain in the pre-talk. Remember this, the most important part of the pre-talk is to say this. Sarah, you may be aware of everything that happens during the hypnosis session today, and that's okay, because you'll still be in hypnosis. Okay, so I've explained ahead of time that she may be aware, because when you're in alpha, which is the lightest state of hypnosis, you can still be aware. And I would explain this to her. You, just like when you drive a car or read a book or watch TV, you're kind of focused on what you're doing, and you can be aware of what's going on around you at the same time. That's what a light state of hypnosis is. And even in that light state of hypnosis, your brain is very suggestible. The other end of the spectrum, Sarah, is that you may go unconscious during the session. And it's possible that when you come out of the session, you'll feel as though you've had a nap and you'll remember very little, if anything, of the session. I want you to realize that that's okay. So the first thing you want to do in a pre-talk is find out what the patient needs. Find out what they need from you. Listen to what they're saying. Find out what you can do for them so you can chart a course for them. The next thing you want to do is educate them about hypnosis. It's your chance to shine. What do you know about hypnosis? What have you learned about hypnotherapy? What can you share with the patient at this time that's going to put them at ease and make them realize they're with a professional? Realize that when someone comes to a hypnotherapist, they're always at least a little bit skeptical. They're at least a little bit concerned about what's going to happen and the way things are going to unfold. So it's your chance to shine academically and show them that you know what you're talking about. So education is important. Then the plan. You've got to have a plan. Once you find out what they want and you've educated them, you need a plan. You need to chart a course for their success. So you need to tell them, I think it's going to be 3 sessions, or I think it's going to be 3 sessions on this, then 3 sessions on this, then 3 sessions on this. Whatever it is that you decide needs to be done, you need to share with the patient, because people want to know, what is the distance between where I am and where I want to be? Between, for example, being overweight and being my ideal weight, being a smoker and being a non-smoker, having a lack of motivation and being full of energy and motivation. What is the distance between point A and point B? They want to know that. Is it 1 week? Is it 1 month? Is it 3 sessions? Is it 6 sessions? I want to know that. So let the patient know what the distance is. That's the plan. Memory. You want to make sure the patient understands that they may be aware of everything that's said to them during the hypnotherapy session, but they still may be aware of what's going on, and that's okay. So, in other words, they may be there in the relaxed, comfortable chair with their eyes closed, in hypnosis, and be aware of everything that's said. And they may have a full recollection of everything that's said afterwards. It's important that you tell them before the session, tell them during the pre-talk, before the actual hypnosis session, that they may be aware of everything that happens during the session and they're still in hypnosis. What happens if you don't do that? If you don't do that, then they can come out of hypnosis and say, I remember everything that happened. I must not have been in hypnosis. It must not have worked. You do not want a patient saying that. You want to tell them beforehand that it's just like driving a car or reading a book or watching TV, where you're involved in what you do, but you're still aware of what's going on around you, and you can still remember it afterwards. But during those times when you're driving a car sometimes and reading a book and watching TV, you can go into hypnosis. You can actually slip down into alpha and be in hypnosis, but you still remember it afterwards. So you need to explain that to the client, that hypnosis is not some otherworldly Zen-like state in which they don't have any recollection whatsoever of what happened, because a lot of times patients do have that feeling. A lot of times patients think that when they go to a hypnotherapist, they need to be completely knocked out and they need to be completely unconscious, or it didn't work. They weren't deep enough for it to work. That is a myth. Even when they're just a little bit relaxed in alpha, they're highly suggestible. So dispel that myth, get that myth out of their mind, and also tell them that they may be aware of everything that happens and it's okay. They're still in hypnosis. The other end of the spectrum, of the memory spectrum, is that they may go so deeply into hypnosis that they don't remember anything. So you want to explain that too. You want to explain to them, even if you fall asleep. I mean, I sometimes have patients snoring during hypnosis. Even if you fall asleep and snore, and even if you have a dream, that's okay. You're still in hypnosis because the stages of wakefulness and sleep correspond to the stages of hypnosis. There's not a separate scale for wakefulness and sleep and a separate scale for hypnosis. They're the same scale. So in other words, when you drop down to alpha or theta or delta, well, as you're sleeping, those are the same alpha, theta, and delta states as when you are in hypnosis. So you need to explain that to them. Even if they sleep, they're still in hypnosis, and, most importantly, and they can still receive the positive messages in their subconscious minds.